The tent in the dust. The desert stretched for miles, dry, endless, and cruel. Noah Briggs rode his old mule under a burning sun, the last of his money jingling in his pocket, $15. That was all the drought had left him after his crops turned to dust. That evening, he reached a small trading post outside Dry Creek. The only thing for sale was a tattered desert tent, weathered but strong. The old merchant grinned through missing teeth. $15, farmer. That tent's seen more secrets than you can imagine. Noah didn't ask. He handed over the money and carried the tent into the desert, setting it up near a dry riverbed. As the sun fell, he lay on the sand, staring at the stars, thinking how quiet loneliness could be. But sometime past midnight, he heard laughter. Soft, musical, echoing through the dunes. When he opened his eyes, 3 women stood outside his tent, barefoot, glowing in the moonlight, their eyes like desert glass. "Are you real?" Noah whispered. The tallest smiled. "As real as the wind that touches you." Before he could speak again, the youngest one lifted the tent's flap. "Come," she said gently. "The night is cold. Lie beside us." Noah froze. His heart raced. He didn't know if it was a dream, or a curse. But when she reached out and touched his hand, it felt warmer than anything he'd felt in years. The Desert Sister's secret. Noah's breath caught as he stepped into the tent. Inside, it didn't look like the same ragged thing he'd bought, it glowed softly, the air warm and scented like wild jasmine. The 3 girls sat close together, their hair shining silver under the lantern light. The oldest one smiled. "We've been waiting for you." "For me?" Noah frowned. "I don't even know your names." The middle one leaned forward, her eyes soft. "I'm Lila." "That's June," she said, nodding to the youngest, "and she's Marin." They spoke in voices like whispers of wind through the dunes. June tilted her head. "You're lonely, aren't you, farmer?" Noah swallowed hard. "Lost everything I had. My land, my house, even hope." Marin's hand brushed his arm. "Then you've come to the right place." He should have been afraid, but something about them felt peaceful, ancient. He noticed their wrists were bound by thin silver threads, glowing faintly in the firelight. "What are you?" he asked quietly. Lila's smile faltered. "Once, we were daughters of the desert, guardians of this land. But a man's greed broke our home. He built wells that stole the river's soul." June's voice trembled. "The curse trapped us here. Every full moon, we wake, searching for someone pure of heart to set us free." Noah blinked. "Set you free? How?" Lila looked at him, her gaze tender but heavy with sadness. "By staying," she whispered. "By choosing not to run when the dawn comes." The wind howled outside, shaking the tent. Noah felt the weight of her words, the test hidden beneath their beauty. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about his pain, but about theirs. The night of truth. The desert was silent except for the sigh of wind brushing the tent walls. Noah couldn't sleep. The 3 sisters lay close, their breathing soft and even, like the rhythm of the dunes. But something about their stillness felt almost too perfect, like a dream holding its breath. Just before dawn, Lila stirred. She sat up quietly, the silver thread on her wrist shimmering faintly. "You're still awake," she said. "Hard to sleep," Noah murmured. "Feels like I'm inside a story that isn't mine." She smiled sadly. "Maybe it always was." Lila reached for the lantern, dimming the light. "Our curse isn't broken by love or pity, Noah," she whispered. "It's broken by truth. You must know who we really are before you choose to stay." The wind outside rose, swirling sand around the tent. The ground seemed to hum beneath them. June opened her eyes next, then Marin. All 3 sisters sat in a circle, their silver threads glowing brighter. Lila spoke, her voice now carrying a low, haunting echo. Long ago, our father ruled this desert. A proud man who thought he could own the sky. When the drought came, he stole the river's heart, a spirit in human form, to save his land. The spirit's dying curse turned his daughters into keepers of the dry sands. June's eyes filled with tears. We live only by moonlight, until someone willingly shares his soul with us. Noah's heart pounded. Shares his soul. What does that mean? Marin's voice trembled. If you stay with us through sunrise, you give up your life, and the river will flow again. Silence. Noah stared at them, three beautiful faces, bound by sadness and centuries. He'd come into the desert to find rest from his pain. Now, he had a chance to give life back to a dying land, at the cost of his own. And for the first time in years, his heart didn't feel empty, it felt alive. The dawn's choice. The sky outside the tent began to pale, that fragile, golden moment before dawn. Noah could hear the faint whisper of wind shifting, the world holding its breath. The sisters stood together now, their silver threads glowing like moonlight caught in water. The desert shimmered beyond the flap of the tent, dry, endless, begging for rain that never came. Lila stepped toward him, eyes full of sorrow. When the first light touches us, our time ends. If no one stays, we return to dust until the next full moon. June's voice trembled. But if you stay, your soul will wake the river, and will finally be free. Noah's chest ached. He looked between them, three faces filled with hope and sadness, bound by a curse they didn't deserve. All my life, he said quietly, I thought I was cursed too. Lost my land, my wife, my reason to keep going. Maybe this was where I was always meant to end up. Marin stepped forward, tears glimmering. You don't owe this place your life, Noah. You've already suffered enough. He smiled faintly. Maybe suffering isn't the end of a man. Maybe it's what teaches him to give. He reached out and touched the silver thread on Lila's wrist. It pulsed under his fingers like a heartbeat. Outside, the first ray of sunlight broke the horizon. The sisters gasped, their skin turning translucent, their eyes shimmering like water. Noah, Lila whispered, tears spilling down her face, if you stay, there's no return. He looked at her, calm now. Then I'll stay, not for death, but for life. The light flared, brilliant, blinding. The tent rippled, and a warm wind swept through the desert like a sigh of relief. Somewhere in the distance, the sound of water began to flow. The river returns, final part. When the light faded, the desert was no longer silent. Wind carried the scent of rain, real rain, and the ground trembled with the sound of running water. The river that had been dead for 100 years now flowed silver through the sands. The tent was gone. So were the three sisters. In their place, 3 wild white lilies grew where the tent once stood, their petals glistening with dew under the rising sun. The people of Dry Creek woke to find the desert blooming, cactus flowers opening, cracked earth turning to soft clay, and water whispering through the valleys. They said it was a miracle. But out beyond the dunes, a single rider found something else. A farmer's hat, weather-worn and lying beside the lilies. And in the wind, they swore they heard a man's voice, calm, peaceful, whispering. Keep it alive, and never let it go dry again. That day, the legend of Noah Briggs began, the lonely farmer who gave his soul to awaken the desert and free the 3 daughters of the river. Every full moon, locals say, 3 figures of light appear near the flowing stream, and beside them, a 4th figure stands, smiling quietly, as if he never left. The river still runs through Dry Creek. And whenever the wind hums at night, it carries their story. Of loneliness turned to sacrifice. And death turned into life.